we go. All right, welcome everybody to Cycle Jerks podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Mike Stewart, joined as always by the friendly and vicarious Dave Dalton. Dave, how are you?
Changes every week.
Yeah,
I'm great. Great.
I'm working
really
on
good.
my embellishing skills right now. Is what I'm working on. So hopefully that everybody knows that's heavy sarcasm. But Dave, good to see you back from Cape Cod. Feeling good?
Feeling really good. Yeah,
Good.
feeling really good. You notice I don't have a giant hat on today though, Mike. I start tomorrow at track and I can't wear a giant anymore.
Yeah, we'll be announcing the new host, co-host to the podcast next week.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I'm very happy for you, Dave. Honest, in all sincerity, very happy. You're in the industry and you got a good job with a good company. So I'm really excited for you.
Appreciate that.
Also, very excited today to have a blast from my past. Somebody that we grew up racing the same circuit of BMX races back in the day, and this guy, I always looked up to this guy. I always thought he was a SoCal, but turns out he's a NorCal that went to SoCal. When I met him, he was a SoCal. But anyway, Todd Huffman, movie maker, BMX legend, and now the promoter of the Frogtown Classic BMX race, amongst other events. We're going to talk about all that stuff here as we get going. Todd, welcome to the podcast.
Well, glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. This is an honor to be on a NorCal-centric podcast. I haven't been on yet, so.
Yeah, well, the reason why I say SoCal is because Todd was with when I first knew of Todd, he was already successful in BMX and racing for SE Racing, and I just remember that, like, the SE school bus coming to town, and I don't know if you were on that or what, but I just know all the SE guys were from SoCal.
A few times I was on that bus. I helped build that bus, bringing it back to life the spring of 1982 to go on tour. So that was
man,
quite an adventure. We'll make a great movie someday. So
yeah, seriously, that would be amazing. And I worked for years with Perry Kramer, obviously a big part of SE Racing.
Oh yeah, of course. Peaks,
and,
my buddy.
And Perry and I, it was funny because when being from NorCal, when Aunt Perry, there was like a little bit of a chip on our shoulder because all the SoCal guys got all the run in the magazine. So we felt like, hey, NorCal's got a great BMX scene too, and we don't get any coverage.
You're still whining about that, Mike.
I am.
BMX comes up, you whine about that.
Hey, you have to come to Frogtown then this year because we are starting the first NorCal BMX Hall of Fame.
Oh, look out.
Saturday night at Frogtown at our Legends of BMX party. We're going to induct 8 new people along with grandfathering in 32 NorCalers from the National BMX Hall of Fame. So,
man, fantastic.
We're giving everybody their due.
Yeah. Well, so the reason why I bring that up is because when I first got the job at Giant, I was worried about meeting up with Perry because I was always, there was a little, I mean, he was way better than me, but I always wanted to get, he was from SoCal. I wanted to let him have it when he's on our tracks. And sometimes I'd beat him, sometimes, but so I was worried about meeting him. And then as soon as we saw each other, we talked till like 2 o'clock in the morning, just having a blast, just talking about the old days. And man, there were a lot of adventures in that big blue school bus. He had all kinds of stories about that thing breaking down.
Harry's like the only guy who could really give it back to Scott, without fear of a reprisal of some kind, right? And remember, we were taking the bus to the 1982 ABA Grands and in Tulsa, maybe it was Oklahoma City, I forget what year that was. Anyhow, we left like late in the afternoon and it was nighttime and everybody kind of slept through the night while Scott drove, right? Because Scott for some reason could stay up late and all lots of hours. So,
I wonder why.
But anyhow, so in the morning we come cruising into this city and everybody's kind of waking up and Perry's like, Scott, okay, so where are we? He goes, man, we're just rolling in. We're rolling through Phoenix. We're on our way, like Scott goes, and Perry goes, Phoenix? you fool, we're supposed to be on the 40. No, you're taking the wrong way. You're going to the south route east. So we had
Oh,
to turn around and go all the way up through Flagstaff on
oh,
Highway
geez.
17 to catch the 40 to go where we really needed to go. And Barry was the only one that could call him fool, you know. So
Yeah. Well, that was back in the day with maps, you know, not like
yeah,
today, you know.
homicide.
Yeah, you really had to kind of know where you were going, you know, but
Yeah.
yeah, how things
Uh,
have changed.
and use the
Yeah.
odometer on your car or bus or whatever, you know, to measure mileage and make a left after 53 miles. And
Yeah.
anyhow,
So what year did you wrap up your BMX career?
you know, it was pretty fast after I moved down south. By 85, I was done kind of racing pro. 84, really, I think. So
Hmm.
I raced for 2 years, 82, 83. 82 was my best year for sure. And then met a girl, you know, and that
Yeah.
was the beginning of the end. So
Put it in perspective. All right, the girl thing, that brings up another whole question. But when did you start racing BMX? At what age and
you
when
know,
and
Dave, I
how?
think I was about, I think I was in the 6th and 7th grade. You know, I kind of ventured onto a track for the first time, the Sacramento Raceway. Um, I had a Moto Pro Superstar, which was kind of a poor man's redline squareback,
Mhm.
and with like one Moto Mag on the front, and you know, it was like a mutt bike, you know, but it was cool because all the parts I was kind of putting on it one piece at a time, you know.
Uh-huh.
Right.
And yeah, rubber band start. I think there was like, it felt like 30 guys, kids on the line, you know, right? With a rubber
Hmm.
band, big surgical rubber swag, you know. And raced that a couple times, and then, you know, got a better bike and raced a little bit the California Cup. Went to the Vegas Winter Nationals in like 78, and I wasn't very good, you know, as a 14, 15-year-old. And then I had to quit like around 79 because I got what, you know, the ABA called the fume syndrome, right?
I don't know.
Gas
What is that?
fume, gas
Oh,
fume and perfume, right?
oh.
So to get the girl with the perfume, you needed a car. That's
Yeah.
gas fumes. And that meant like a fast food job or something where you had to work on the weekends. And so the BMX careers
And then,
disappear for a couple of years until you get seniority again. Then you can start racing the weekends because you make your own hours, right? So when I came back, the scene in Placerville where I grew up, you know, was kind of like they had a track up in Pollock Pines, and there was a whole scene that it just, I was going to motocross races with friends and yeah, still riding a little bit, but not racing, right? And man, one day I was on my way home and my little driving down Green Valley Road from Placerville, I said, oh, there's a little bike shop that had popped up, right? A BMX shop. So I went in there, and the gal, her and her husband that owned it, they were running the races in Pollock Pines, and they hadn't seen me before because I haven't been around, right? And they were new to the sport, and they kind of learned what I did, and they said, oh, you must kind of know how to ride. And man, like right then and there, they go, hey, you want to ride this weekend? And man, I said, sure, but I don't have anything to ride. They fixed me up with a brand new PK rubber,
oh,
brand new, complete bike, you know. It had, you know, one piece cranks and stuff, but it was really still pretty freaking cool, you know.
yeah.
And I went to that race, you know, kind of for them, whatever, and I just waxed everybody. 16
Oh,
expert open, like, and all the other guys, they had no idea who it was, right? But
yeah.
I guess whatever matured or whatever got, you know, and then it was just on from then on, you know. So hey, well,
So what you're saying is that a woman ruined your racing thing twice. Once as a teenager, and then once later on in life, you met another girl. And
well, I don't think a woman ruined my life.
no, I said racing life, racing life. Yeah,
Hey, you guys, do you
Yeah,
guys edit this, by the way?
sure.
You edit this?
Yeah, kind of.
Someone's knocking at my door right now.
Yeah, get
That's
it.
all
Go
right. It
ahead.
just adds to the intrigue.
Yeah.
Invite them in.
Oh man. So when did you get back from Cape?
Saturday night.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so Saturday, late Saturday night. It was a bit of a shit show. 2.5 million plus miles on American, and this is only the second time they lost my luggage.
Oh,
So I lost my luggage and it delayed a little bit. And
Okay.
Yeah.
So Todd, do they want to jump on? Do they have any, can they add value?
I know they were looking for donations for the Fullerton girls soccer team
Oh, okay.
clothing. So I know I have some clothing that I can give the girls soccer team at Fullerton that they can use.
So
No,
you're located in Fullerton, I guess.
I am located in Fullerton. Love it
Yeah.
here.
Do you know my guy Mike Franzi?
Of course. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
big giant dealer.
Yes, he is. Yep.
Yeah. Legend
Good,
down here.
good guy. Yeah. When I sometimes when I go down for sales meetings, we'll meet up and I ride with his son. We'll go climb Mount Baldy or something. We even talked Mike to come join us one time.
Oh yeah, he's a good
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Does a
Yeah.
lot. You know, I mean, he's got staying power. Like of all the bike shops that come and go,
hmm
he's the guy that's still here, you know.
He treats people right. He's got great energy and people
Yeah.
love him, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah. But okay, so we were talking about the fumes,
Yeah.
the fume syndrome. You got
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
fume syndrome, came back, waxed everybody 16X,
Yeah.
and the world's your oyster at that point.
Well, kind of. And the dealer peddler people's what the bike shop was called. You know, we went to all the Northern California UBR circuits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Sturgers were the names. They ran District F pretty much. They had 2 tracks, 3 tracks maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And but they were also pretty much the sole SE dealer up in that area, right? And so, you know, Scott was wanting to help them out, and I was the, you know, soup du jour in that area on the bike. So
Uh-huh.
I got the sponsor thing going. And then by 1981, after high school, I graduated in 1981. I was working at bike shops, their shop, another shop, whatever. And then Scott knew I kind of had a gift to gab, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just personable, whatever. And he invited me down to the BDS, the big bike show in Long Beach. Like before Interbike, there was the BDS show, right?
Yes.
In Long Beach, always in January.
The bicycle dealer showcase.
Yes, that's what it was. And he invited me down to be a salesman for him. Like
Oh,
be out there on the floor talking to dealers, you know, and I was how old was I? 18, 19, or just turned 19. And yeah, so that was kind of the start of the bike thing. And then he said, "Oh, you should come down and work for us, work the phones, you know, phones
mm-hmm.
telemarketing guy, you know." And so I moved down in March of 82, the same weekend of a NBL War of the Stars race in Long Beach.
Oh yeah.
It's right there by the arena. It was really cool. And then, you know, we were thrust into fixing that frickin' bus up that had been sitting in the back, rotting, you know, all the hoses and cables and ratchets on the wiring and stuff, you know. So when it came time to go for a tour across the country to the World's Fair and the Murray World Cup, they had worried more about, you know, the cool photo collage on the table and painting the camouflage on than they did worry about
Making it run.
radiator hoses and, you know, battery terminals and things like that. So we had to get out on the road.
Yeah, that thing painted with because it was Dave. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's kind of a famous bus in BMX lore, but it's like baby blue, and then it had like the brown wings on it, and
Well,
then I
the
guess
second reiteration, it was camouflage.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, we had camouflaged it. And that was because the camouflage thing was like a big deal for Scott at that time. So
okay,
Dave Roberts, the in-house kind of art guy, painted camouflage, and it had this box on the roof that had a fake, like a cannon turret out the front, a PVC pipe, and the
okay,
box was the turret, which was where we would put all our gear, you know.
all right.
Pack the bikes on the roof, put the gear in the turret, you know, had the big PVC bike coming out the top, looked like a cannon, right?
Oh, there it is. I got it.
That's great for mileage, I'm sure. You know,
Yeah.
fuel efficiency.
And it disappeared in, I think it didn't last very long. It disappeared in January of 83 or something like that, when Scott forgot it was up there when he went underneath the awning of the Tropicana Hotel.
Oh, I heard
Las
about
Vegas
this.
for the Jag World Championships. Yeah.
Yes, I was there for that one.
Oh,
Yeah,
did you go?
and
Okay, so you were there. So
yeah,
yeah, Scott goes wheeling in, like thinking he's the big deal, going to pull up to the valet at the Tropicana, right? Again, to make a great movie, right? You know.
yeah, I would.
and he just grinds the thing through, and we're all inside, and you hear the box explode. You see bikes coming off on
Yeah.
either side of the windows, down. And Rod's cussing Scott out. He's only 17, but could get away with cussing Scott out, going, "You dumb motherfucker," like.
Yeah.
What was the amazing part is, and that was the end of the turret, right? The bus
Yeah.
survived and went on for years, but they never rebuilt that thing. Was that the only person we had, like Dwight Lowell, one of our cruiser riders, his seat post was bent on his bike. That was like the only thing that happened to the bikes after
Oh, no kidding.
he scraped off.
Wow.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, that's this. So that Jocks Jag World Champs in Vegas, that was ESPN was actually getting into BMX back then, as I remember it. And I know Perry said Scott had kind of coordinated something and with the ESPN guys, and they were going to go out and party or something, and then they put the cameras, these very high-end cameras, into Scott's vehicle, and then the story is Scott disappeared with the cameras, and like he went away for like 6 months. Is that right?
Man, I don't know, not for that story. It's related. I think Perry's getting his wires crossed with the NBL Grands many years later.
Oh, okay.
And I was involved with it.
Oh.
And I had quit working for Scott in 84, 85. And like, it was a big scene when I quit. And the next day we started, Bob Morales and I started more distributing our own little BMX parts distributor.
I remember. Yeah.
Which turned into Auburn Bicycles, which then GT acquired, So by August of 89, I was working for GT. I was the new marketing guy for GT, right?
Yeah. And
they had kind of acquired, they didn't pay us any money, but they kind of took over Auburn as a brand to start making those bikes. But GT was a sponsor of like the NBL series that year, right? And Richard had this deal with Scott because Scott was trying to, so this is, many years later, this is probably 7 years after the Tropicana accident. And Scott was already known to be kind of flaky. And Richard had the deal with Scott that they were going to do a TV show from the NBL Grants in Louisville, Kentucky. And I had to work with Scott, right? By that time, it was kind of weird because Scott was kind of my mentor and I looked up to him and I worked there and, but now he's kind of my vendor, Yeah,
all right.
And I got the big cushy job, so to speak, and he's just struggling, scrapping for projects, right? And so we have this plan to go back and shoot a TV show for ESPN for the NBL Grants, right? And I go back there and Scott is supposed to show up, go to Louisville, rent all the equipment or pick the equipment up that was rented at the rental house. And then we were going to start showing up the next day to shoot the race. And Scott just didn't show.
Right.
For days.
Okay. So Perry's kind of partially right.
He's partially right. Like it happened, that kind of thing happened.
Yeah.
And Scott just found himself that night, found himself some girl and they were doing drugs and he just holed up doing drugs and just completely blew off the responsibility and having that equipment in the car. And we're at the races waiting to do this show and everything. Like it was the most blatant case of professional suicide.
Yeah.
Possibly do, right?
Well, not just him, but the whole sport of BMX, right? Because BMX, we always felt like we should be getting more coverage because it's exciting. It's still, you watch BMX, it's exciting to watch the races, but we never really got any coverage. And, then here's this opportunity where, hey, this big, it was, they're going to make it onto TV.
In the late 80s, if it wasn't like for Vision Streetwear, like Vision, Brad Dorfman did a lot because they sponsored those things and they wrote the check and had a real production company do the work, but yeah, that was the scene. Scott went as so far as to try to cover his ass that he went to a hospital, walked in and tried to check himself in that he had been in a car accident. Right. so he could cover his ass.
Oh my
And
God.
that's why he disappeared for 5 days. Or maybe it was 6 days, like the whole week. And he's married, his wife was worried, and he, it was just,
He's on a coke bender with some chick
it
he
was
met.
ugly.
Right.
It was ugly.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's better than because I swear maybe I'm mixing some stories too because it's been a long time, but I swear PK said he was gone for like 6 months. No one even knew where he was. But
Well, that happened several times.
oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have a treatment for a documentary about Scott that someday, maybe hopefully sooner than later,
Hmm.
we're going to make. And it's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, it's not going to
Yeah,
be what I like to say, a blowjob about Scott. It's going to have those moments, right? And
right.
behind all the awesomeness of BMX innovation and Yamaha Gold Cup and PK Rippers and just whatever are the ugly moments and the police chases through to Newport Beach and
Right.
crashing cars and
I mean, ultimately he
dying in a vacant field in
man,
a cardboard box.
yeah. Yeah,
So
well, it's a cautionary tale of a
sure.
brilliant mind that just got wrapped up in drugs and couldn't get out of it, and it's really sad. You hate,
SE should have been everything that GT turned into. The
yeah,
GT
yeah, it was cool.
or Mongoose or any of those big brands, Redline,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, listen, let's talk about. I
I'm
think you're our
depressed now.
first guest.
But let me ask you a question.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I mean, and again, I'm on the fringe of BMX at
Yeah.
best, right? Uh, my son raced a little bit, and but I've never worked in a BMX oriented shop and stuff. But so, what has been just out of my own curiosity, the trajectory of SE? Okay, so it was which SE should have been during the pandemic. I was working in a bike shop, and every second phone call was, "Do you carry SE?" Right? And do you have PK Ripper? So how has it resurrected itself?
Well, the brand kind of went through a lot of changes in the uh 80s. Mike Devitt, while Scott was unfortunately in had his issues, Mike Devitt kind of tried to keep the brand going on and off. And I think the brand was sold once or twice, maybe more, whatever. And then obviously a decade or two ago, because I think Todd Lyons has been, kind of the director of that brand for the Fuji folks for a long time.
Okay.
That company had hired Todd Lyons, who, Todd has been around the industry a long time and, writer for Eagle Snacks and worked for Haro and just was around forever. But he became their kind of product manager / marketing guy. And man, he was really into going to all those urban places and getting involved with people that like to ride their bikes in New York City and Philadelphia, doing wheelies and all that stuff, I mean, and that whole basically created that whole bike life
Yeah,
ride out market, right? And
Right.
I tell people, Todd Lyons is like the Pied Piper of bikes.
seriously. Yeah, it's amazing what he's
He
done.
created an amazing segment in its own and is creating new bicycle riders for the better
Yep.
of everybody. Trek Giant, everybody. They're creating new cyclists because of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
He
interesting
deserves a lot of credit,
that whole that whole movement gets a lot of hate from the cyclists, but it's like
as they should sometimes,
yeah,
because
oh yeah, they do a lot of stupid shit for sure.
yeah.
I even saw a kid in downtown Livermore got hit doing a wheelie right into oncoming traffic, like a complete buffoon. But
This girl was killed a couple of years ago. That was kind of a normal, regular part of the scene, whatever. And Todd and those guys, they don't condone that stuff. I mean, they don't advocate for that, but they can only do what they can do. Guys,
yeah.
show-offs will be show-offs, right? So
Those rides take on a life of their own.
they do.
Well, it is kind of it's not far off his brand either. If you think about Todd Lyons, the racer, Todd was known as the Wild Man, Todd Wildman, the Wild Man
Oh, for
Lyons,
sure.
and Todd famously backflipped in a pro race. So in a group of dudes,
I was there at the LA Equestrian Center.
yeah, yeah. I mean, how bananas is that? That is complete nuts. And so, yeah, he was always one to show off and do his thing. And that's why when, I mean, it's truly amazing what he's done with that whole category. I mean, he
Yeah.
created something completely new and different. And the thing that's really cool about it is it's really pulling in people that maybe otherwise could care less about bikes. You know, a lot of these kids wouldn't wouldn't even think about a bicycle. You know, especially when you look at inner cities and whatnot. I mean, the bikes are not terribly popular like they used to be when all of us were kids. You know, we that's how we got around. Now mom and dad drive them around,
Sure.
or who knows.
I'll take the bad with the good.
Yeah,
You
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
know,
the
no, at the end of
same.
the day, the net effect is positive, right? So,
Yes. Yep.
and Todd and those guys, they man, they must have great relationships with like their suppliers,
Hmm.
their management, because they can come out with these short run themed models that are named after a city, like they have the Bay Area Ripper or the Sacramento Flyer, or they just came out with a series of bikes that's named after each of the boroughs in New York City. There's a
Yeah.
Bronx Bomber and a, you know, Staten
Yeah.
Island and whatever in the Manhattan, whatever, and they got the
right.
graphics are custom painted and all the, components are different colors and, they each have their, so
Yeah.
God
It's
love it. So a
it's
lot of
really
SKUs to
smart.
babysit, but, you do what you can do. You have to
Well,
do.
they all become limited editions, and then they got people bidding on them because
Oh,
they
yeah.
can't get them anymore. And like Marshawn Lynch, the football, they had that one
Oh,
Beast
yeah.
Mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Beast
did.
mode.
He did some ride outs over here in Oakland not that long ago. And yeah, it's super cool. But I wanted to. I mean, like I was going to say, you're the only guest we've had on the podcast. This is like we got 160 plus episodes. I don't think we
Oh,
have it had anybody. Oh no, maybe Jack Thompson with an IMDb profile. But yeah, I was on. I checked it out, and yeah. So, how did you transition from bicycle marketing guy to making documentaries and working with the likes of Lyle Lovett, who I personally I love Lyle Lovett.
One day Scott didn't show up, so I had to go find some cameras.
well,
Yeah,
it's interesting. When I was in high school in Northern California, I was a kind of a drama nerd and wanted to, and was always happier doing stuff off stage, like doing the lights or we made it the first haunted house in Ponderosa High School there. And I also produced I was just telling some of this the other night. We produced the first student produced movie, right? For
yeah.
Ponderosa High School, right?
Okay,
It was like, this is in 80 or 81. And, video technology, small VHS stuff was pretty new technology, right?
sure.
We had talked the librarian who'd got this new deck and a camera with a long cord attached to it, right? Use that thing to make this movie, right? And man, we had her equipment like in a shopping cart with extension cords out in the parking lot of the high school, shooting stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so I was kind of interested in the movie thing. And when I moved to LA, I was going to go to school to, I don't know, learn how to be a director or an editor or something while I was working for Scott. That was kind of the plan. Like, go down there, transfer to UCLA, whatever, maybe be an actor too. Cause when I first moved in with Rod Beckering, I was, went and got headshots done and all this stuff, and was
Uh-huh.
trying to chase that a little bit. And in fact, I was racing and I got a part-time, I was working at SC, but on the weekends and at night, I got a job running a pedicab, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like, had like a rickshaw thing up in Westwood by
Oh,
UCLA,
cool.
right? And, Westwood is like this.
Yeah.
Cities down here and UCLA is up the hill, right? And you would kind of transverse up across town and up a little bit, right? And people get in and say, hey, take us to whatever avenue, right? And you'd pedal them over there or whatever. They'd park their car, and they give you $10 or $5 or whatever,
Hmm.
but it was really good when I was racing because, man, it kept you in shape.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, you know 300 400 pounds jumped into your little cart and you got to pedal them up the hill or something, right? So
Right.
so I even did that for a little while, right, while I was in town, so but I started to take some film classes at Long Beach City College. And that was right when I was working for Scott. That was right when the girlfriend that I quit racing for had left, because I wouldn't marry her right away because she's from Tennessee. And I got involved with Bob Morales, and we created our little company, and that just killed the career, education. I went from student and worker to entrepreneur in the biking.
Okay.
So come full circle, I get to work for SGT, and Richard was really big on doing everything in house and doing videos. And Sean Buckley those guys were doing their freestyle videos with Magoo and all that stuff. So we were able to easily talk Richard into actually building a little video department at GT. And so by the time I left in '98, when Mike, you were jumping in, we had a full-on department with 3 guys in there. Led by Don Huffman, who's now my current business partner from Vision. We took him from Vision, and we were producing shows for Fox and ESPN and Liberty Sports, and created the Crank show, Crank.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So kind of got the producing creative stuff. In fact, I created the Crank show myself. It was like my idea to have this magazine format show, so.
Yeah.
It was easy when I left GT. We were still doing some TV stuff. And then what's really started the documentary thing was in 2003, Don Hoffman is good friends with Stacy Peralta, right? The famous skateboarder.
Yeah.
Right. And Stacy had just come out with Dogtown and Z Boys, right?
Yeah.
Documentary. And it was
awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And, Don and I were talking like, we should do something like that. That's cool, Like, well, what can we do? We can't do skateboarding, so we're like, well, should we do BMX? Because we both have a BMX background. Like, it's the market's too small for it, And I think, how about motocross? Because these are all guys who were my heroes when I was a kid, Bob Hanna, Marty Smith, Brad Lackey, whatever, and we said, yeah. So we did the demo.
Yeah.
Shot an interview with Brad Lackey. Someone put me in touch with him and Marty Smith, and we made this little 5-minute kind of teaser reel of what a show about those guys. We called it a behind the music of motocross.
Yeah.
And it took about 1.5 years to finish that and show it to people. And finally, the guys at the Speed Channel said, "Yeah, we like that. We'll take 5 episodes." They did 5.
Man. Yeah.
It was
what a moment, huh?
Brad Lackey, your neighbor up there in Pleasanton, Pleasant Hill. Brad and Marty Smith and Roger DeCoster and Ricky Johnson and Bob Hanna.
Yeah.
Those are the first 5 episodes.
That's quite a list.
Yeah, Davey Coombs, Racer X magazine. Davey Coombs said it best. He goes, "Man, that's the Mount Rushmore of American motocross."
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, so you got those 5. I mean, when that happened, give us an idea. Like, how hard did you shop it? Were you like, how do you shop it? Do you have meetings at studios and go door to door, or how does that
send DVDs out? There wasn't many places it could go except the Speed Channel,
Yeah.
And
ESPN.
Yeah, no, but they weren't interested. But I got to hand the guy at Speed, which was owned by Fox at the time, Bob Ecker's his name, because Don Hoffman saw this technique used in a movie about Bob Evans. It's called The Kid Stays in the Picture, right? So if you ever want to see a neat documentary about Bob Evans, the legendary producer of Paramount Pictures, created Chinatown and The Godfather and all that stuff, look at The Kid Stays in the Picture. And they did this technique that made still photographs move, right?
Oh, okay.
When you see something and it looks like the photograph is moving, there's layers in and a little puff of smoke and all that. So Don had seen this, and I'd seen the movie too. And he's like, we should do something like that. But it was because he saw a how-to by the editor in that movie in a obscure DV video magazine. The guy was interviewing it and he showed how to do it. right? It's like a mix of Photoshop and After Effects and this, and they're using the right photograph. And so we found a guy to do a few of those for us and put it in that demo, right?
Oh, right.
And when the speed guy got a hold of it, he had seen the Bob Evans movie, right? And he says, Todd, you guys use that effect from the kid stays in the picture. I said, yeah. He goes, you guys are the first people in sports I've seen use that technique.
Wow.
And I
That's
think,
cool.
because it adds a really cool production value, because you make the photograph move. They have 3 different layers and a rider's running through in the foreground object, and there's some dust coming off the back tire, but it's a still photo,
Right.
So it's pretty neat. So
Yeah.
big deal. People, the production value was good. It looked like a real movie,
Mm-hmm.
the grizzled guys like Brad and Bob Hanna, they got nothing to hold back on telling stories, no, they don't care anymore. So they're awesome storytellers,
Right. Yeah, they're not worried about any sponsor drop or anything like
Oh,
that. They just let it rip.
yeah.
That's the
And that's, I
best.
think, what people like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
And then
for
we met a lot
sure.
of people through that process, and that's how we stumbled on the John Penton movie. Is after doing like 21 of those motocross files and another movie on the Carlsbad USGP, and I'd read this book about John Penton on the way to a bike show, a motorcycle show on the airplane, and I'm like, wow, this guy deserves a movie,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't until years later someone approached me and said, hey, Todd, you should do a movie on John Penton and have Lyle Lovett narrate it.
How
A complete
crazy.
stranger called me one night, somehow got my phone number.
Yeah. Wow.
How did all right, well, okay, so you're the genius that created the movie. Who's the genius that said Lyle Lovett should continue, should narrate it?
This gentleman named, a friend of mine now, Jack Martin, and he was like a booze attorney in Texas, but he had motocross in his roots, and he liked all our motocross files, our movies and stuff. And he just called and goes, hey, Todd, you don't know me from Adam, but you should do a movie on John Penton and have our favorite Texan, Lyle Lovett, narrate it. And I said, that's an interesting idea. Why not Lyle Lovett? And he said, well, because Lyle used to work in a Penton dealership when he was 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
In Houston, Texas. Oh, that's interesting, because I'm a Lyle Lovett fan, right?
Sure.
Who isn't?
Yeah.
Everybody
Right.
should be a Lyle Lovett fan. And
Agreed.
I said, you know what? I know someone who knows Lyle Lovett.
Oh,
So I got off the phone with him and then called Mark Blackwell, the legendary Mark Blackwell, who was a famous Husky rider and a Suzuki marketing executive, famous guy. And I said, Mark, you know Lyle Lovett because they do horse reining competitions together, right?
okay.
In the horse business together. And I said, Mark, could you ask Lyle Lovett if he would narrate a movie about John Penton? And Mark loves John Penton. Everyone loves John Penton.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the Forrest Gump of dirt bikes, by the way. And today's his birthday. Happy birthday, John.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, 99 years old today.
Dang.
Anyhow, so Mark called Lyle, and within an hour, Mark called me back and says, Lyle's in.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So when you get somebody like Lyle Lovett and he says he's in, there's no money talk, right? I mean, what is there still, even if someone's in spirit, you still have to seal the deal, right? How do you even does he have just like, hey, does he have a scale or something? Does he have an
No,
agent that tells you what it is? Or
Lyle didn't charge us.
Are you serious?
Nothing. He wanted to do it so bad because he loved John Penn himself.
Oh, wow.
I remember those days as a kid, so
Yeah.
bad he wanted to do it. And he didn't do voiceover work, like that was new for him. So that would be good for his resume, to do it, And so, man, I wrote a little sizzle reel script thing, and we did, and you can find it somewhere online, but there's a little promo we did where it's one shot at night at dusk, in the woods. And you just get little headlights snaking through with the sun setting and snaking through the woods, and it's all one shot. And pretty soon the guy is right in front of us, right?
Oh, cool.
And it's a friend of mine. He had all of John Penton's garb on with the helmet from the 6 days. It's John Penton on the side. He looks like him. We're wearing all the original gear, and the motorcycle was a restored Penton. It looked perfect. And Lyle Lovett did the voiceover for that.
Oh.
And he read it, and recorded it on a sound check at one of his concerts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had been in touch with him and I sent him the script and I go, can you record this? And he goes, yeah, I'll do it at my show tonight, while we're doing a sound check. And so we read it and we dropped it in. And then even still, it took 2 years to get the money for, and it wasn't until the creation of Kickstarter, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That was the idea of how to fund the movie, right?
Yeah.
So when Kickstarter came around, that was the impetus that could fund the movie. And we raised $165,000, I think, through Kickstarter to make the movie.
Okay. And were you able to get it done for that 165? Did you stay on budget or over budget, under budget?
Well, we kind of didn't have a budget. We had an idea, but we went over that, but we ended up getting some sponsors because once you get going, people see that's really going to happen. Some people jump in, so and yeah, we took John and Jack and Jack Martin, the original liquor attorney, right? He came with us on his own dime to Europe for 10 days and was like our grip, our production assistant. Oh yeah, carrying gear and holding the microphone, and he just wanted to be involved,
Yeah.
And
wow.
we call him Sparkplug. That's his nickname because he was the start of the whole project.
Yeah, well, he sparked the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, and then so when did we start shooting? We started shooting in March of 2013, I think it was about. Yeah. So we fundraised leading up into that. I remember the night I was sitting in a restaurant in downtown Fullerton here when I watched the Kickstarter thing count down, because they give you a clock that's like 21 days, 10 days, and that all of a sudden you're at 30 seconds and it's clock clicking down. I know we were there.
Yeah.
We were over the goal, because I think our goal was 150,000, and we were at 165. So I knew we were going to make it, but
yeah,
it was so wild. I was sitting with a friend and we watched the thing clock count down on my phone, and it goes, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're funded. Click, and all of a sudden I get a notice from Amazon, like you just received $165,000 in your bank account, an automatic transfer of funds. Wild.
It's a good thing you didn't pull a Breithaupt and just like bought a big bag of Coke and head to Mexico or something.
We still had a movie to make, I mean.
Yeah.
And then obviously a year later, we were ready to do the voiceover with Lyle, and I got to spend 2 days with Lyle Lovett in a studio in Houston, for about 4 or 5 hours a day. I still got I got 2 scripts that are signed by Lyle Lovett, the binded scripts, so
very cool.
And now Lyle's a friend. So
is he a perfect Southern gentleman?
The most perfect.
That's what it seems like, on the outside.
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that, Mike, because I have female friends that I take every time Lyle comes through town. Just about we go to his concerts, right? Yeah. And he's always so nice about giving his motocross friends a shout out because they're in the audience, right? And whatever. Oh, happy to Scott Harden or Mark Blackwell, Todd Huffman's in the audience. I did a movie with Todd, and it's just really nice about that, right?
Yeah.
I take these people that are, they're familiar with Lyle Lovett and his music and whatever, but they've never met him before. And I said, ladies, he is just the nicest guy. He's got the softest hands, and he's got these piercing blue eyes that, there's a million people around him, and he's talking to you like you're the only person in the room, completely focused.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't believe you. So I take him, we go to the backstage after the show, right? Because he does these meet and greet things, and all these people, every single one of them go, God, you're so right. Like, it's amazing. I just was like transfixed, Yeah. He's just a sweet guy,
Well, some people have that gift. I know they always used to talk about Arnold Palmer about, I'm not a golf fan or anything necessarily. But I know that everybody always talked about Arnold Palmer in the same way. Like Arnold just has this gift where he walks into a room and then he's making eye contact and saying the right thing at the right time to just everybody in the room. And it's definitely a skill that some
I can't
possess.
do it. I'm like ADD, like what's your name again?
Yeah, right. Isn't that the worst? I always have that hard time too. It's like you introduce yourself to somebody, and then like 2 seconds, I was like, what was that person's name again?
2 seconds.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's just boom. Vapor.
So
I'm not the only one.
I
So.
tried this technique when I first meet someone like that, and they'll go, okay, Robert, 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 Robert. And guess what? I still forget.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
I'm
met.
repeating
exactly.
over and over. I'm trying to associate it with the
No,
kind of bike he's riding or something. It doesn't fucking help us.
No, it's yeah. I think it's all of us have this inner dialogue where we're trying not to say something stupid. So you're going in your head. You got all this stuff going on. Like, okay, I gotta get. I don't want to. I just gotta say the right. How you doing? What's the thing? I don't know. You're just in your head when you meet
Absolutely
somebody. At least I
fixated on
am.
the wrong thing. You're fixated on what you're going to say, not, or, not, yeah,
Yeah,
got it.
not being
you
in the
need some more
moment.
Prevagen or jellyfish or something in your diet, right? Make that part of your brain stick.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll work on
So,
that.
so Todd,
Yeah.
what projects have you got in the go now?
We're finishing up a project for TV, an off-road drifter guy named Vaughn Gittin Jr. A show about him that will be done here in a month or so, I'm guessing. And then we're going to be starting a project about the history of a famous dirt bike race, the world's toughest race that started in the 70s called the Blackwater 100 that turned into the GNCC series, if you've ever heard of that racing. The Grand National Cross Country Race. 50 years is their anniversary this year, and so we're making a movie about that. Full feature length, like the Penton movie. So it'll be a big deal, be in the theaters and everything next year, so.
Yeah.
Have my, BMX movies, I want to make the Scott movie, and we have a movie about the Jag BMX team that we want to get done too, so.
Yeah, I
Oh
was going to
yeah.
ask you about BMX. I mean, just we had God, his name's escaping. Who was our BMX dude that was on? That was so fascinating a couple weeks
Oh,
ago.
Mark Jackson or
Yeah.
Danny Joseph.
Well, both actually, but Mark, and then it kind of opened my eyes to how big BMX is now, and especially with it in the Olympics. I'm saying, to your point, I guess it's in the works, but is now it wasn't back then because the market was too small, but is now the right time because it is. I mean, we've made the Olympics, and now Mark was describing how many people actually show up at his weekend races, and it seems like maybe the opportunity is there now.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to tell you how you do
the
your job. It's just
challenge,
like, yeah,
the challenges in the distribution space these days is that there's no networks that'll buy a show like that, as far as
mm,
terrestrial or cable networks, right? But the streamers, the Netflixes and Hulus and Amazon Primes and all that, could be fertile ground for something like that. In fact, we're working with some new representation, we'll say, attorneys that are going to help us get in front of those folks with some of our projects, either films or TV. And yeah, I'd like to do, not only would I like to do another season or two of the Motocross Files, because we're not finished yet. There's guys we haven't covered yet, but
Sure.
I think it's time we could do a BMX version of it, and
yeah.
I think, those guys would be really interesting to cover. And,
Whenever I'm traveling or something, I go straight to Netflix or one of the streamers, and I always go to look for the latest movies, and I end up always on the documentaries, and it could be about a fucking octopus, but suddenly I'm more interested
yeah, I
than
watched
some
that too.
movie
That was
that,
awesome.
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it will, the point is that I get more interested in those topics than the latest box office hits, because I feel like I'm going to learn something. I feel like it's going to be a bit more entertaining, and I'm never disappointed. So yeah, I'd be all over that.
Yeah, and you guys know who Zap is, right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So Zap is a dear friend, and him and I have actually talked about doing a movie about the 1990 World Championship, mountain bike World Championships
Oh yeah.
in Durango.
Yeah.
Mm,
First race when the Euros came over, Frischneck versus Ned,
Right.
yeah.
Right. That
Todd
changed
winning.
everything.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and all the drama that went on, and it's got funny people in it like Hans Ray and Greg Herbold and all those guys. So, and I'd forgotten some of the stuff, but Zap, and he's a big fan of the Motocross Files because he's a moto guy at heart.
Yeah.
He's like, tell me these stories. I'm like, dude, we should make a film about it, and How can
Yeah.
we make a film and get specialized and rock
Right.
shops and SRAM and what all those guys to help pay for it, right? Because
Sure.
I can get it in the theaters, you know.
Well, I'll tell you right now, you're barking up the wrong tree if you're trying to get bike companies to give you money.
Oh, don't I know?
Yes, you want some
I just
product?
I
Yeah,
just
we got
postponed
product for
that.
you.
I just postponed an event that I have thousands of dollars invested in until next year. And he
Mhm.
just can't.
So
So
Yep.
interesting circle. So the great circle of life, right? BMX, 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 movie, documentary, blah, blah, blah. And now Frogtown.
yeah.
I mean, obviously he's been around, but I'm just saying you're back, right, to BMX.
Yeah, I never, other than when I left GT in 98, I kind of drifted away from the sport for a while. The motocross thing just pushed us into that world for many years. But I'm still kind of in touch with everybody and following it and everything. And uh Johnny Valdez, who used to run the UBR, the United Bicycle Racers, and he was only a few years older than us when he was running this association. I'd stayed in touch with him, and he did work in the motocross, the moto business too, right? He made
Mhm.
jerseys and pit uniforms. He made these shirts. And that's what. So I'd see Johnny at Supercross races occasionally, whatever. And there was these regional events, and being in the motorcycle world, I was always around the vintage motocross races, right? Because that was the era of the guys we were doing the shows on, and they had their little reunions and races, and someone would show up, and we had these special races where we got all the legends together. So I was aware of the interest in vintage motocross racing, and it just kind of hadn't happened yet in BMX, right? And
Mhm.
it was in 2019, maybe the first, there was the spark of the idea, and then the pandemic came and we had to wait. But I think I asked Johnny about, we were going to have a UBR reunion. The idea was to have this UBR gathering, because the NorCal people were always felt a little slighted by our Southern
No,
California
no,
brethren.
really?
Yeah, they were very tribal, the NorCal people.
For sure.
And Johnny and I were talking about having like a UBR reunion thing, be fun, like let's get everybody together and be a party or a weekend thing. I said, yeah, but it should just like be like a high school reunion. Those are kind of lame, and they last 3 hours and they're over or whatever. I said, what if we found a place to do like a weekend thing, and maybe we could have a race, because thinking of the
Mhm.
vintage motocross thing. And just because I had raced there, and I don't know, Mike, if you did, I threw out, and I was kind of half joking. I said, what about the old Frogtown track?
Oh man, yeah.
And Johnny goes, it's still there. I go, what do you mean? He goes, oh, I was just drove by it 2 weeks ago. He goes, they just parked cars on it at the fairgrounds for this county fair. This dirt, same dirt, the hill, it's there.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal, it's
It's
still
been there for
there.
40 years.
Yeah.
And I said, really? He goes, yeah. I said, I'm going to call him. And so, I mean, I think I got off the phone and then called up, searched Calaveras County Fair phone number information. Hi,
Yeah.
I want to talk about Run That Hill. And they were totally into it. Lori Giannini, the director of the fair, said, yeah, no problem. And she gave us a dirt cheap thing, and that started it. And
Incredible. Where that
Johnny
was.
was kind of skeptical at first. She said, Todd, it's gonna cost at least 25 grand to pull that thing off, because you got to build a whole infrastructure
Mhm.
in there. It's a dirt, there's no toilets, no water, like there's nothing there.
Right.
And I said, okay, I ain't scared, like
Yeah.
we can probably piece that together with some sponsors that'll think it's a good idea. And yeah, sure enough, like guys like Chris Moeller, S&M, like one of the first guys to step up. The GT guys, I know those guys, right? They know I'm not going to be involved with something dumb or not going to do it right. I mean, they know me, so it was easy to piece together small chunks of money to exceed 25K, I mean, not by much, but we pulled it off,
Sure.
and people to this day, we tell people that, we created something that a bunch of old guys didn't know they needed in their lives at that point. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it pulled so many people out of the woodwork up there. NorCal, more SoCal the next year, right?
Mhm.
But the NorCal people, man, they showed up, and they hadn't seen people in 30 or 40 years. They hadn't been on a bike in 30 years or 25 years or 20 years. And some of them got on it, some just watched. But the ones watching were like going, man, I could do this, downhill track, gravity is my friend when I'm 50 years old, because it's still a long track, and it's a big push up that hill.
Yeah, sounds like a bad idea to me.
Yeah, I don't ride. I know a lot of good riders who were legends back in the day. They don't ride either.
Right,
And
right.
I gotta work on Monday.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that was the start of it, right? And the next year we pulled it off again, and then all of a sudden someone's doing one in France, and Mike Miranda and Eric Carter come, and all of a sudden they're inspired to do something down south here,
That's
and
right.
I'm getting calls from people in the UK asking if they could use our name for Frogtown, UK,
Wow. How about
and
that?
Oklahoma, and now New Jersey, and
Tell
it's
the
kind
guy in the UK, say, no problem, 25 grand.
of yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to, high tide rises all boats, I say, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah, for sure.
you know,
How cool is that that in the UK they want to call it Frogtown? That is
yeah,
hilarious.
I think it'd be
Yeah.
better for France, right?
Yeah. Well, Dave, just to give you some kind of context, so Frogtown was like this notorious, at least to me, it was this notorious track because it was a down. So BMX is not downhill, but Frogtown was always downhill, and so it was like you just kind of zigzag down the hill. The first corner I mean, they eventually put a berm on that first corner. I remember one
Not
year it
much of one.
had a little tiny lip, but the first corner, you imagine you're sprinting down this hill, and then there's a 180 turn, and there's a tree right at the apex of the turn. So, you're sliding sideways through this corner, trying to stay on the track, and this tree is there. They ended up wrapping a mattress around the tree because there were several incidents on the tree. And yeah, I mean, I remember we would go to the track and my dad was like sharpening our pedals, to make them so that your feet would stick because you'd be spinning so fast that sometimes your feet you'd slip a pedal or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we had a couple of very memorable races there, and always look forward to it.
And what's neat is we're running on that same dirt, right?
Yeah,
Literally.
so crazy.
The starting line, the first straightaway, first jump, that first into the first turn, out of the first turn, second berm, third straightaway, same dirt. We
Is
had to
it
change the next turn to third turn because there's a utility company that rents the land, and they kind of cut a road through there, and they kind of cut off where you would go up around the third turn. So our third turn is kind of moved down, but it still does the basic shape of the original track. But it was, completely serendipitous. We kind of ran out of time the first year. So the third turn, I wanted like a real berm, it's on the second turn, right? And we just ran out of time. And so it turned into this kind of flat sweeper thing, right?
right?
But it was right in front of everybody where all the crowd was watching, grandstand, little bleachers and everything. And man, that flat turn became the thing that people would try to remember how to ride, right? These guys you thought were pros or good experts, 40 years ago, it's like they'd forgotten how to either put their foot down or take their foot off or bail off, and they would just start sliding and then just auger into the ground. Like, take their handlebars, even hands off the handlebar, just go.
Oh,
A 747 crash land, skid into the, without the landing gear up.
yeah.
And so it became a thing, right? And so the
Yeah.
last 2 years, they're not doing it this year, but the last 2 years, Yoshimura pedals.
Uh-huh.
Well, they wanted all their banners in that turn, the flat pedal turn. Big E, but can I put some Yosh banners up around this turn, and then we added the S&M Glory Hole, which always is a little funny tongue-in-cheek name for a mud pit,
Yeah.
Thank goodness there's the real Glory Hole recreation area across the street from the
Oh, there is.
track.
Okay. All right. Good.
So
I
you
mean,
can get away with it then. No, no, no,
yeah.
Oh
no.
yeah,
This is what we meant. Yeah.
that's what we meant, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your mind out of the
Get
gutter.
your
What's the
mind out of
matter
the
with you?
gutter.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Well, and this year you guys have to come to the race because that glory hole. Chris Moeller from F&M Bicycles called me. That's a few weeks ago, and he's been the sponsor of the glory hole for 2 years now, and he says, Todd, what, you think we can make the glory hole a little more glorious? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, it's good, but it should really be a decision maker. Like, you have to really want to try to make that thing to improve your position, right? Like, you could go from fourth to first if you pull it off.
Okay.
And otherwise you're going around it, right? And I'm like, okay, I like that, but we can't hurt anybody. We always send 4 or 5 guys to the hospital every year.
Right.
You don't want anybody to get worked. So if they got wet or muddy, that's okay if they don't pull it off. And he goes, yeah, I get it. So we've come up with this thing. I have a drawing. We're gonna build the track this weekend. I leave Friday to go to Angels Camp, right?
Oh boy.
So we're gonna make this the water hole, and it's gonna have 2 lines over it, and there's gonna be a round line for side hacks and everybody else who doesn't want to try it, with moon bumps and a double, whatever. But the 2 lines in the water hole, the fastest line is you're going to double, kind of skip over and land on a little patch of dirt, and then double off of it over the water, right?
Oh,
So it's
okay.
Randy Spangler, the guy who does the Red Bull.
Oh yeah.
Whatever that thing is up in Utah, right? He's one of our track builders,
Rampage.
Right? Rampage.
Yeah.
So when I showed him the drawing of it, I called it an island. And he goes, oh, it's like a lily pad. Go, that's exactly what it is. So if you take that, it's a fast line, right? But then you can jump over a shorter distance on the water, and that's the second fastest line.
Okay.
Go around if you don't want to even mess with it. So
right.
That's our big project on Sunday.
What a shock that Red Bull wants to actually make something more difficult.
Well, I'm hoping that Red Bull gets involved with the event someday, so we'll see. So he's a cool cat and knows he's an artist with a tractor and excavator, so.
Yeah, he's done some great things. I mean, yeah, Randy's
he's
done
like
a lot
the trail
of
builder extraordinaire up there in Northern California, right?
Yeah,
he gets hired by like municipalities and cities and bike parks and
a fantastic dirt jumper back in the day. I mean, he was wild back in the day. Him and Josh Bender. You know Josh?
I don't know him, but I heard the name.
Yeah. He was one of the first Rampage guys. But yeah, well, that sounds exciting. You got your lily pad, your lily pad.
Lily pad. People
lily
are
pad glory hole.
The glory hole.
I'm not.
I showed it. 2 weeks ago was when I kind of dreamed up the lily pad idea, right? And I was thinking, I don't know, fell asleep during the weekend. I'm a napper these days, right? So I woke up thinking about, like, I had I'm not dreaming about it, but it was like semi-conscious thinking about it. And I came up with the idea, right? So I got up quickly to draw it out in PowerPoint on my computer, and
nice.
So
go ahead.
Well, and so I text Chris Moeller, right? And said, hey, I just want to let you know I woke up from a nap thinking of your glory hole. Don't let that get out. and attached the drawing of the thing I did, right? He said, wow, that Todd was more than I was thinking of. That's pretty cool, So.
I got to tell you, Todd, when Dave and I, when we talk about this podcast and all the different directions we could go, I don't think that either one of us ever thought that there would be a mention of a glory hole on the podcast.
No, not associated with
It's a famous BMX track obstacle across from the glory hole recreation area on the New Malones Dam in Calaveras County.
Yeah, I mean, shame on us for thinking otherwise. I mean,
I'm trying to think if I make a soundbite out of that, will that draw more listeners or will it turn?
We might go viral.
The big break we've been looking for.
It might get us some cross-eyed looks from some folks.
The muddy glory hole. Might do it. So
no. Oh my God.
help me out on the entry into the glory hole, are you bunny hopping onto the lily pad, or is there a lip onto the lily
There's going to
pad?
be a
And then,
little, I'm thinking it's going to be more of a little lip, like a ramp, like not like a jump up to it. You're going to kind of
right,
skip over it, right?
okay.
And then
And then
hit a
will there
little
be off
double
the lily
off.
pad?
What's
Okay.
that?
There'll be something
Then
off
there'll
the
be a
lily
little
pad
jump
too?
off of it,
Okay.
probably a flat landing
So
with
it's
a
kind of a rhythm,
transition.
yeah, rhythm deal.
Yeah, I envision it'll kind of look like the guys do at Supercross when they jump double up on a tabletop and like seat bounce
Yep.
over a next set of doubles. It might
Hmm.
kind of look like that without the button, you know, no seat bouncing, right? I mean, you need a little angled turf to help the effect, right? But
Yeah.
you know, it's key that the edge of the landing is like really gradual in case you come up short,
Yes.
a hard edge that will, you
Yeah,
know,
you want to minimize the
yeah,
hospital trips.
you know,
Yeah.
so we'll
So
see.
with these old timer guys, like, I'm 58. I ride my bike damn near every day. I
Yeah.
have zero interest in going down Frogtown full gas on a BMX bike. There's no way.
Well,
But
with 7 other guys, right? You know,
yeah, that's insane. So who is it that I mean, are there guys that I mean, because they still have Masters Pro, right? Like Eric Roop and some of these guys are still racing pretty regularly. Are you getting that crowd, or do you separate those
um,
guys? Like, hey, you guys are like legit still BMX guys. This is for like us retired people.
no, there's some legit guys will show up, you know, Terry Tennant, you know, Hall of Famer,
Oh yeah.
Northbound guy. I mean, he's won the Pro-Am the last 2 years, you know, and he
Okay.
takes it really serious. He thinks he's going to three-peat this year, which he probably can.
Yeah.
And then he races Jason Morris, Dick Cheeseburger, they call him, from SC, and they've had, you know, 2 years of epic battles. But last year, Eric Carter was in the mix too, and
Okay.
that Pro-Am main was something to watch for sure because the lead changed about 3 times, and it was right down to the last turn. You know, it was
Yeah.
something. I mean, people
So
like
it's
it brought everybody out. You know,
How long is the course?
it's approaching 1,300 feet now, so it's going to get a little longer this year because of the glory hole pulling, doing something different. That's going to cause the fourth turn to get stretched out there a little further. So
And that will take roughly how long?
about a minute, you know, it's long, you know, I mean, the
Yeah, and but it's
Olympic,
amazing.
the
Go
Olympic
ahead.
main was like 33 seconds or something, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
But it's amazing to think a lead could change 3 or 4 times in a minute. Do you
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? I know it does on the BMX and the Olympics as well, but it is crazy to think that you could have that many lead changes in a
Yeah.
short period of time like that.
Well, after the first turn at Frogtown, right? I mean, that jump, and then the second turn is a place where a lot of things happen. You
Yeah.
know, and that berm that's been there, it was there when we walked out the track on the first time. It was still there after 40 years, the berm, because they don't
Wow.
park cars over that part. It's kind of too rocky. So we could see in the tall grass when we went and did a site inspection for the first time, we could see like, oh, the grass is taller over there where the turn was, right? And sure enough, we went and we scraped it, the turn was there, right?
How
And
great is that?
because it's underneath some trees, those oak trees, remember you dip,
Yeah.
go around and dip down in. And so now we call it's the AAA fire because the Patterson's sponsor. It's called the dinosaur berm,
Oh.
you know, because it's the original berm that's there.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, so leads can change there and coming out of it. And then, man, that flat turn is anything can happen for sure. I mean, guys go outside in and bump, push guys out to the soft stuff outside. And then we do something kind of crazy that with the last turn, it's like a big bowl turn that
Hmm.
it's like not quite complete. And then it has this big step up to the left and a hook.
Oh, okay.
You're still doing this,
Yeah.
and it, or you go around, but you could like step up and double over it, and
Yeah.
it's faster, right? But and people
Sound,
thought I was insane when I did that. Go, hey, no one's gonna be able to ride that. No,
yeah.
they love it.
Yeah.
It's
I was gonna say it sounds
cool.
great.
It's old school, you know.
Yeah.
It-
Well,
it-
go
But the
ahead.
event is more than a race, right? I mean, it's a big, it's, you got, it's an expo, you got vendors, you
Oh
got,
yeah,
I mean, it's the whole
bike
family affair,
show,
right?
a big concourse de elegance, like a Pebble Beach bike show, probably the biggest one in the country. Swap meet, vendors. And now this year, two new things we're doing this year. We've always done this party Saturday, or either Friday night or Saturday night. So it's moved to Saturday night, Legends of BMX party. Well, now we've added the NorCal BMX Hall of Fame ceremony. So that's part of Saturday night. And then Sunday,
That's cool.
we moved all the semis and mains from the vintage stuff on Saturday to Sunday. So
Okay.
we're kind of forcing everybody to stay one more night to race their semis and mains. And then we blended that with a modern, I don't know, Mike, if you were racing when the California Cup was around, 76, 77,
Yep.
famous series, right? And then they had the Centurion Grand Prix, which was up in 3-day race with Roseville, Auburn, and Grass Valley. And so we kind of combined the names. So we're putting on the Centurion Cup Grand Prix for the modern
Okay.
kids on Sunday.
Okay.
So there's 6 qualifying tracks. The kids had to win a race for a golden ticket, like Willy Wonka, you know, to qualify for it, and big trophies. But they got to show up with their flat pedals and, you know, no Christmas tree starting lights or tone. They got to do it old school style, right?
Rubber band?
No rubber band though.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we got a gate. The first year we had a gate made, you know, instead of just getting a big long 2x12, you know, like
Yeah.
we do, right? And then, man, the gate is made of steel and it's heavy. And so just to find people that can pick that thing up all weekend long is hard, you know, 3 days.
Right.
So the guys at ProGate gave us the RAM system.
Oh, nice.
We had some people that were like, oh, it's not old school, you know, I'm like, man, this is just for safety. We're just picking up the gate and pushing it down, right? We still got a guy that has to flick a switch.
Yeah.
He has to say, riders ready anytime, you know, and he has to manually do it. So let's let some technology help us, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Not that
I never
much
did.
effort, you
I
know.
never did any of those races, the California Cups, but a good friend of mine, he did race those. I started in 1980 was my first race. But my dad did the gates for years at UBR. He did
Oh, you really?
all the nationals, everything. And
So you know Jim Brodlow and his dad.
yeah. Yeah.
Jim
How
is one
about
of our, man, if not our key volunteer guy, besides me and Johnny, Jim Brodlow, Juice.
oh, cool.
Super good guy.
Is
Lives in
Stanley
Modesto.
is Stanley Robinson still is he a part of it at all?
No, he shows up and he rides.
He
He,
does.
yeah.
Yeah,
He won the trophy after a couple of years. So
my dad had a real bad interaction with him one time. Stanley, I was racing, I think it was Odyssey Factory BMX or whatever, and I think we had Stanley on the team, if I remember right. But Stanley was like the first person I ever met where I was like, this guy, I mean, I just remember being really struck by him. He painted the inside of his helmet red. You know, he had a full face and he painted it red. And I remember I was asking him about it, and he's just like, "Yeah, man, when I see red, I just go bananas." And like he was just wired differently, you know. But
yeah, sure.
there was we were at Radical and they were doing gates at and my dad was I love that track.
So good. One of the
Yeah,
best.
yeah. Well, here's a long shot. Do you remember the name Del Wymira? He was a Radical local, but he was always like our host. Him and Todd Tompkins, Randy Tompkins. Anyway, so but anyway, my dad was doing the gate, and the gate Stanley felt like my dad was sabotaging him on the gate. And he got in my dad's face, and like people had to break it up.
Oh yeah.
And I know my dad felt terrible about it, and there was nothing to it. It was just more just
Yeah, Stanley was known to do some challenging things at times with people. So
yeah.
I remember one year, it was when the other guys took over or stole the NBA from Ernie, the DeFilippo guys, and they had a big national, not at Radical because it was an NBA thing,
Okay.
but the 99 freeway there, a great track, 81, 82-ish. And Stanley had been banned.
Wow.
Like he had been banned for suspended for fighting or something, right?
Dang.
And it was the race that Stanley could come back, but it had to be a consensus of all the pro riders, right?
Oh.
Remember, there's all of us are in a circle And the head guy, official guys, okay, you guys, if you want Stanley to ride, you guys got to be okay with it. Basically, is what it was, right?
Uh-huh.
Speaking of PK, right?
Uh-huh.
And,
I could see where this is going.
and Perry's like, all right. Well, Stanley, man, you just can't be doing all that going off and going crazy and shit all the time, or something like that. I'll never, but it was Perry, right, leading the charge of all the pros,
Uh-huh.
right? Like he was
Right.
the spokesman, right?
Uh, you know what you appreciate about Perry is that like maybe that was what a lot of people were thinking, but everybody has this internal speed bump where they're like, yeah, I'm not going to say that. But
Yeah, yeah,
Perry will say it, and it needs to be said, right? If you're going to take this guy back, and there was some kind of history with him,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it should absolutely be said.
You
But
need to shock him a little bit, like it.
yeah.
Don't leave it hidden, for sure.
But I will say on the flip side with Stanley, he was really great with me. He had this thing with my dad. I don't think he knew it was my dad, but like I remember we were at some track and I was trying to do like the post line on a berm. Like I was trying to go wide and pedal
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all the way around it,
And spare your speed, yeah.
Yeah, and Stanley like pulled me aside and was giving me some pointers, and I mean I always felt like he was super nice to me, and yeah, but he definitely had that side, but he wasn't alone. I mean, back in the that's where like when you see like when we're talking about the Olympics and BMX, you go back to Dave's point about like a movie. When you look at the way that this thing started and the craziness that was happening with let's say Ronnie. Ronnie was one of my favorite riders.
Yeah.
Just so talented. But his nickname was Crazy Ronnie, right? And
For a
so
reason.
yeah, for a reason. You got guys like Crazy Ronnie, you got Frank Post, talk
Oh
about a
yeah.
character. Oh my goodness.
Wild man, right?
Wild Man, yep. And you got Stanley Robinson. I mean, you just the list goes on. Harry Larry had his moments. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
these guys all, and then you look at it now where it's just super buttoned up. These guys are like pros. They got coaches. They're wearing heart rate monitors. I mean, it's like it's such a different thing. Yeah, I think that would be pretty compelling. Of course, I'm a little biased.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Well,
even Mark Jackson said,
Stanley these days is just super chill,
Hmm.
quiet, respectful. He's like a preacher up there.
Oh, really? Yeah.
He's just rides, he's just a machine. So different Stanley than 40 years
Well,
ago.
and I mean, I think all of us, when we're young and you're racing and, you can get heated. It's just
Oh yeah.
part of the sport, but some people handle it better than others. But it's good to hear that Stanley's kind of moved on from that
Yeah.
phase of life. But
Well, I invite you guys to come to Frogtown and bring
yeah,
your tent and whatever and do a podcast from there if you wanted to, like
yeah.
so.
What do you think, Dave? It's not this weekend, it's next weekend.
No, it's 2 weeks.
weekend.
It's not this coming weekend. It's 2 weeks. It's
Oh,
September
look,
6th through the 9th. So it's three
See, my
six.
weeks.
timing sucks. Now I got a job. I got to work weekends. I fucked up in reverse. Like, why couldn't it have been 2 weeks ago? I could have gone.
Yeah, I
Now I got to
definitely,
work.
I definitely want to come. So I'm going to try to make it happen.
Just
So
come watch it. Bumped into tons of people and
yeah. Yeah. Maybe get
so
some
My,
future guests on the show.
my D
last year Jeremy McGrath came, right?
Oh man.
Right?
Yeah.
Him and Brian
Incredible.
Lopes came up together. And the
Mike, I
Pattersons.
think I I think you need to go, and then maybe you could get closure on this whole NorCal SoCal thing,
Ain't
right?
happening.
That's
Ain't
never going to happen, Dave.
Yeah.
Never. No, no.
happening.
I'm totally good with it. I mean, I looked up to all those writers. I don't know about you, Todd, but growing up in NorCal, the magazines would come out and I remember
Oh
like,
yeah.
Trash Can Morgan,
Oh
and
yeah. Ethan Jones.
yeah, yeah, yep. And Pistol Pete, you know, I mean, I looked up to all those guys, but it was just I still felt like we got some good stuff here in NorCal too.
Ronnie took me out at the bar last year, speaking of crazy Ronnie, so
Did he really?
oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Saturday night our party ends, and Mike Miranda and Eric Carter, they take over the bar at downtown Angels Camp for three
Oh
nights.
no.
Seriously. called My Bar is the name of it. It's this little dive bar downtown Angels, and it becomes the Dirty Knobs place at night, late night. The Dirty Knobs. And
Yeah,
everybody ends up down there. And after Saturday, I was I've been wiped out for a week leading up to that. And
sure.
when the mains were going on and the award ceremony was happening on Saturday, this freak thunderstorm came and took out power for like the entire county of Calaveras.
Oh
Like
boy.
crazy. So our party that we're supposed to have that night, no power in the whole fairgrounds, right? So we're scrambling to move generators from the racetrack and extension cords. And so I was just busy trying to get that going so the party could kind of take place. And but afterwards, Miranda says, Todd, you got to come have one beer downtown.
No.
And I'm staying at the track in a little RV trailer thing, right? And
Uh,
I go, okay, I'll go one time. And so I go down there. I have the one beer, and man, everybody's there. Eddie King, Bob Harrow, Stu Tom, like not Stu, but just about everybody's there, right? Including Ronnie.
right.
And Ronnie had been overserved,
Oh boy.
So I had my one beer, and then I got to go because I got to get up at like 5 again the next morning because we're running races, and
Yeah.
I'm leaving, and it's a tiny little bar. It's maybe 40 feet long from the front door to the hallway to go to the bathrooms, right? That's it, right? And in the front, there's a pool table. So I'm walking. I got 8 feet to get to the door. Right?
Good luck.
I'm headed that way. I'm walking. And Ronnie comes up to me and puts his arm around me and is getting ready to do this, I love you, man, kind of thing, right? Drunk guys do, right? He's got his arm around me. And I'm still moving. So I step, and right as he comes up and puts his arm around me, he stumbles.
Oh no.
So his foot goes between my moving legs, right? Because I'm moving, right? And trips me. We both just hit the floor, It's like 550 pounds hitting the old Rush Town era floor. Or Joyce's floor from 55.
It was a 3.7 on the Richter.
Yeah. And man, the whole bar stopped, right? Whatever was on the party, just went, oh, no, everybody's like, holy shit, Ronnie just took out the race promoter. I jumped up pretty fast. Ronnie didn't. Like he was like, oh, I don't know if he hit his head or not, but he apologized for it. But yeah, that was the second time Ronnie Anderson about took me out. The last time was in 1981. So
yeah, well, that's a great story. Yeah,
I got taken out by Crazy
yeah,
Ronnie.
that's right. Oh,
the most funny thing about
what's that?
Is the NO and is not the right. It should be KNOW.
Oh, right. Yeah, but Ronnie didn't care.
The complete misspelling is just part of this.
Yeah.
I'm like a spelling
Dave,
guy.
To let you in on the story, Dave, Ronnie had a catchphrase. It was, oh, and so people would always, he's a NorCal guy, no, but he's a NorCal guy, and he was winning races. He became national #1 pro for a while, and anytime somebody would have any question about him, anything controversy, be like, oh, he'd just brush everything off with, oh, and
right.
yeah, he was.
But now it's like a thing they print on T-shirts, Dave.
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
It's U-NO.
NO.
It's not even spelled right.
I had a buddy. I had a buddy of mine had some white Vans. The white, the old.
I don't know. No.
But he had put a U on one and then NO on the other with him like a marker. Yeah, Ronnie was he was incredible. He was the first guy I ever saw do a 360 on a bike.
Oh yeah.
Way back before anybody was doing anything like that. And I mean, he was just
his brother, those were
they were incredible
siblings in BMX,
Yeah,
are competitive.
I wonder how many times we've said since we brought up I
know. Now
it is contagious. It, right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, good stuff.
Say
Todd.
right, not right? Right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, listen, I'm definitely going to look up your movie because I haven't seen it yet, and I want to check it out,
Oh, the Penton
especially.
movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? I'm gonna write myself a note.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna give anything away to your viewers, but I'll send you a private link
Oh,
to
wow.
it, full length link to it, HD, awesome,
Great.
unlisted link. So you guys
Awesome.
can forward it to Dave.
Yeah, that'd
Okay.
be awesome.
We'll do a
Um,
little review on one of our future
I
podcasts.
do, and I
Yeah.
honestly, I'm a little biased. Obviously, I made it. It's a great story. I'm, the Pentons now are, I call Jack Penton, the son. He's a brother from another mother.
Uh-huh.
Most of those guys making the movie,
Yeah.
and they were really skeptical at first. They knew I did the motocross files and stuff, but man, it was like I had to audition.
Sure.
He's like John is like sacred to that whole the Penton owners group.
Yeah, they had a brand, right? It's a
They
brand.
were
Yeah.
wanting to make sure that I was going to treat the story right, and I mean, I was using a book that they approved as a basis, right? And but just in the process, you get really close to the people, and I found that, man, this is just a story of a family. It's just
Hmm.
an American family story, an American family business story, very patriotic. It kind of just happens to be about motorcycles, right? Like
Got
that's
it.
what you kind of get out of it, to where, you know, it was always a nice moment when I heard from people who had saw the movie, that had taken their wives to see it, or their girlfriend watched it with them on TV or something. And these people didn't know shit about motorcycles. They didn't care about them. And they were completely transfixed for 2 hours, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I,
Sounds like me and Octopus, right? So
oh yeah, I was transfixed for 90 minutes with that thing.
yeah,
Damn
yeah. So
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm sure I'll get. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. So get it to us.
Yeah. It's, you know, um, a story about that. We did these screenings when the movie came out, like all over America, and I
Hmm.
would fly to some and go to some, whatever. I don't know how many we did, 100 or so. And the Pens would go to some because they live in Ohio, and they would, people with motorcycle dealers say, "Hey, can you bring your dad, Jack, to a screening in Maryland or Georgia or Florida or whatever," right? And they would go to these things. And they were at this theater, like an Edwards or a Century or one of these big theaters. And John was sitting there, and this young couple in their 30s, sat down next to him, right? And the girl sat next to John, right? This old guy, and John at the time is 89 years old, right?
Yeah.
And and she doesn't know who he is. And I don't think the boyfriend really knew either, but John likes to chit chat, especially likes the girls, no matter what, right? No matter what, he's gonna chat them up, right? And he's like, "Oh, so do you like motorcycles?" He asked
Hmm.
the girl. And she goes, "No, not really. I don't know why I'm here. My boyfriend brought me this thing. I had to come with him." And John's like, "Oh, okay." He doesn't say anything, right?
Hmm.
So a little while deep into the movie, and it doesn't take very long into the movie, where there's some emotional parts, right? And Jack, who was sitting on the other side of John, looked over at this girl, and she had tears. She
Oh,
the movie was just bawling,
yeah.
Okay, see, we did our job.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome, man.
you guys will like it. So I'll send you guys I'll send you a link, Mike, and you can share it with Dave. Don't share it with other people because that keeps me from making money on it, right? So
I'm going straight to TikTok with that bad boy.
it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. They won't take it.
Yeah.
Make a 20-second version of it
Awesome. You got it. Yeah, it'll just be between Dave
and
and I
show
for
it.
sure.
And you got to do a little commentary of it in your underwear before you launch it.
I can't make any promises. Well,
Anyhow,
Todd, listen, man, this is it's been a lot of fun having you on. And
yeah, thanks
yeah,
for having me. It's fun.
yeah, you've definitely lived a very interesting life, from humble BMX beginnings to, being buddies with Lyle Lovett, and
I know.
making movies, and what a journey you've been on. And yeah, I'm excited about the Frogtown Classic. I haven't been yet, but I'm hoping I'm going to make it this year. I definitely want to make it. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
So
we hope to expand next year and be able to do our Gold Country Classic, the big mountain bike.
Yeah, before we get out of here, why don't we talk about that? So that was
Yeah.
originally planned for this year, but
Correct.
now we're gonna push it
We're
to
pushing
next
it
year.
1 year.
Okay.
The people that own the land for good reason are concerned about fire danger, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yep.
big deal up there for you guys, I know,
Yep.
being from Placerville, El Dorado County and all, so that's one thing. And obviously we all know how the industry is, and nobody was throwing money at us to,
Yeah.
come let us be at another bike event, right? So
Mhm.
better just to wait for the industry to sort itself out. We'd probably have more uh recipients interested in getting a booth space or having some demo bikes there or whatever, so I mean, and we want companies like Giant and Trek and Specialized and whoever, the whole Pond group,
Sure.
to be
Yep.
there. It's a neat place. The facility's perfect. I'll probably get in trouble for saying it that we don't put it in print, but we kind of want the event to be like a mini sea otter,
Mm-hmm.
at that time of the year. We can't have all that, it's not nearly big enough to do what they do you know, at Laguna, but we can have the spirit of what goes on there for sure, with the expo and the cyclocross race, the mountain bike race, and the demo area, and maybe even have some little outer bike type of stuff where you could get on a bus with a bike you want to ride for 2 hours and go down to the Tuttle Hole recreation area or the Tuttleville or the Glory Hole recreation area and ride that trail system and be brought back on the bus with your bike that you just tried for 2 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
So that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
county is really behind us. The county of the Tuolumne County, those people know what we're doing. And, we think the community up there in the foothills likes what we're doing with bringing cyclists to the area, spend money.
Yeah. So I have a question. When you first contacted the gal at the to get the track,
Yep.
did they have any understanding that happened there?
No,
Did they no knowledge of it whatsoever?
she did, because she wasn't aware or whatever, but she asked some people and they kind of said, oh yeah, they used to do that there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And when, she understood that, oh, you're going to build this track and then put it back to where it was the day after, then why wouldn't they want to do it? Because,
Yeah.
she wants to look like a hero in the community for bringing these kinds of events.
Sure. I'm sure it
To the
brings a
area,
lot of revenue. I mean,
revenue,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Last year we did a survey on Facebook after the event was over, and it kind of said, hey, how many times have you been to Calaveras County? Right? Many times, a few, once, twice, never, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like shit, almost 70% had never or been there infrequently. 70%.
Yeah.
Right? Where do you live,
Uh-huh.
Dave?
I live in Danville. Yeah, just
Yeah,
outside of
no
San
excuse for
Francisco.
you,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I know.
Right.
So, but that's encouraging, actually. That's opportunity. The way I see it, it's not a bad thing. It's like there's more
Right.
people out there, and we have this new relationship with a new Indian casino resort that's just opened 3 weeks ago in Jamestown. You
Okay.
probably heard by it, Mike, on the chicken ranch, the new chicken ranch,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've
or
seen the
on the hill.
signs. Yeah.
Oh, big shiny glass and steel. It's bitching,
Right.
like a Harris or something, right in
Yeah.
the middle of Jamestown. So
Are they going to sponsor the event?
they did a media buy with us this year, which is cool. They ran a full page ad in the program.
Okay.
We we produce this year's 48 pages. We actually reproduced BMX Action magazine,
Oh man, how cool.
and it's the program for the event.
Wow,
You know,
okay.
so
Are the Osbornes involved at all?
no, well the found the brand is now actually I'm exiting full screen here because maybe I'll show you something.
Okay.
Um, the brand is now a nonprofit. Toby Henderson and his wife Jill um basically took over the brand, the BMX Action brand,
Okay.
and let's see here.
I can do multiple participants share simultaneously.
Yeah.
You want me to do that? Let me see what happens. Hmm.
John Cruz, there it is. So I'm just going to show you something. So they took it over. Now it's a nonprofit, right? So BMX Action is a nonprofit. And so did I open that? I did open it. Here, I'm going to open this formally here. So I'm going to share my screen.
Crickets. Oh, here we go. Oh, look at this. Man, there we go. Jeremy McGrath interview.
Yeah, so that's the cover of
Okay.
our program this year, guys.
Man, awesome.
It looks legit, right?
Yeah,
Mike?
totally.
Yeah,
So
that's Mike Savage going into the first turn at Frogtown last year.
Okay. Yeah.
So Mike's
Look
won
at
that class 3 years in a row. Comes all the way from Connecticut.
riding the vintage mongoose, huh?
Yeah, look at that thing. It's
Over
off the ground, both wheels off the ground, floating into the turn.
Yeah, looking pro, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, so who's producing this for you? Are you
I do.
are you serious? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
We sent it to the printer today. Me and
Wow,
the
okay.
guy work on it. Austin Steele, who was oh, you might remember Austin. Maybe he was working at GT when you were there.
Sounds familiar.
He's the designer for it. So he
Okay.
did all the layouts. Um, this is
I mean, if you didn't know better, that looks like something you'd see right off the in my mail back in the day.
yeah. So this is just one of the photos for the intro page for the NorCal Hall of Fame.
Okay. Man, cool.
That's John Anderson
Yeah.
at Corona. He's getting inducted as an amateur, the first amateur to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So just a
That's
cool
cool.
photo at Corona.
Yeah.
First turn in Corona.
Yeah. I never raced Corona.
Yeah.
Never did that. But
Oh, it's fun. Yeah. So two guys do that. Me and Austin Steele, the GT designer.
man,
It looks, it has odds and endos. It has Deer Whiz. It's like a legit. This is the third year we've done it. So
yeah, that's cool. So Toby owns the rights to BMX Action, but
well, he bought it, and they turned it in. Then he turned the brand over to a nonprofit foundation.
okay.
And Toby's on the board, and his wife, and I'm on the board. Miranda's on the board. John Cruz, Eddie Fiola, a bunch of legend guys are on the board. Sue Thompson.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it sounds like it's in good hands.
Yeah, it's in good hands.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Hey, Todd, I mean, thanks for everything you're doing for BMX, man. It's really cool. And yeah, I got to get up there and see it in person. So that's going to happen this year.
Yeah. And look, we can see Dave now.
He learned something about Mike.
Do not move. Dave, do not move. That's what you look like.
What
There
happened?
you go. Yeah.
I noticed that. What happened?
Maybe
It's
the
the light
sun.
on the sun is doing different. It's going away from your back.
The sun's going down.
Yeah.
All right,
So
Mike,
the
we just have
future,
to start
my tip
shooting
for you
later in the day.
will just be to tone whatever you can cut that sun shining on that wall behind you when you do these podcasts.
Oh,
Close the blind, close some shades or something, whatever's going to darken that room up a little bit.
I've been telling my wife it's time to move, so maybe we'll just move houses.
There
I
you
got
go.
a podcast to do.
When there's a
got
podcast studio
here,
built in.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit how long your commute is. I got a podcast. So
All right. Well, hey, listen, before we let you go, Todd, I've had this idea for a TV show. So that, it's going to be bad, I'm sure. So the premise is, kind of like if you imagine like Orange County choppers, right? You've got the dynamic between the father and the son, but just bike shop version. We get a family-run business with a couple characters. Let's call it Mike Franzi and Brent Franzi, and then we sprinkle in some tattooed, gauge-wearing, bicycle counterculture fixie guys that work there, and we just kind of watch all the crazy things that happen at the bike shop, because something really unusual happens many times during the day. And I used to go visit this dealer in San Jose, and he had a clipboard in his bathroom. And so, and what it was all the wild things that have been asked of him or said to him in his years of retail. He would just write it down on these sheets of paper. It went back like almost 10 years. And I swear I would just get that thing and I would just crack up at all the silliness that some of the things that people say and do. But I think if you curated the right type of personalities and then I don't know, maybe
Oh, for
funnel
sure.
some scenarios in there, yeah, I think it could be very entertaining and might help bikes.
Don't disagree. Man, it has to be character driven, right? Like
Yes.
it would have to be like a mix of Orange County Choppers meets Pawn Stars.
Yes. Right.
That kind of
Yep.
dynamic, right? With
Hmm.
bickering and the crazy stories, maybe some halfway created stories, whatever. But
Right.
any network people, they're going to kind of want to know that you're going to deliver some train wrecks occasionally.
Right. Yeah. So it would even like, I mean, I think on those other shows, I think a lot of those scenarios are fabricated too, right?
They
Oh,
have
yeah.
to be. Yeah. They
Yeah.
make it sound, real, but it has to
No
be.
true reality, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And maybe mix in like
scripted reality.
a shop ride that goes bad.
Oh
Somebody
yeah.
gets, somebody gets injured on a mountain bike. I mean, that could just be a tiny part of it, but you know,
Well, and if you have customers that are regulars, right, of a
right.
shop, that are characters that are those characters,
Oh
right,
yeah.
and want to be
Yep.
part of it and to maybe indulge a little bit, it's been tried, with some moto style restoration shows with motocross and stuff, and it fails just because the people just aren't that interesting.
Right. Right.
It can't just be about how-tos. No one cares about that. They want the how-to stuff is just an excuse to show the train wreck.
Right.
you know
Yeah. Yeah, you're camouflaging all the train wrecks with your
oh yeah.
how-tos. Yeah. Yeah.
People want to see stuff because it would be stuff that they would never ever do in their own life. They're too shy, they're too whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyhow.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah.
good. I'm not crazy.
We go to hockey games for the fights, not the games. So yeah.
Well, and I tell people these days when people call me with, hey Todd, you should do a movie about this or about this person or this race, or yeah, I get that a lot in the last
I
10 years.
bet. Yeah.
And years ago I would kind of entertain it and like think about it, but these days I tell everybody that does that to me, I say, okay, awesome, love it. If the idea of the low to medium six figures scare you,
Yeah.
don't need to talk.
Yeah.
Come with me with a budget, right?
Yeah.
It isn't scary.
Conversation over.
Yeah. TV is a little different, but movies, right? Like, oh, you should do a movie on this famous dirt biker or this famous race or this famous race series. Like, okay,
yeah. You want to burn some money?
Yeah, just drive down the road and throw $10,000 bills out the window.
Yeah.
I mean, these things. I mean, the Penton movie took 6 years to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
The time we started it, we made the first sizzle reel, then nothing happened with it, and we started, and then 6 months of preparing for the Kickstarter thing, and then once we had the money, it was another year, over a year to make it of real work and traveling and hundreds of. I mean, did I make any money out of it? Kind of, but it was like McDonald's wages maybe at the end of the day,
Yeah, you can't worry about how much you're getting paid an hour.
It was a
something like
passion
that.
project, right? So,
Yes.
I'm not getting rich by any of this stuff. BMX races, movies, nothing.
Yeah.
I'm really good at working for free for people. So charity work. So
Well, I think the most important thing is you have fun. The heck with the money.
I do have fun, I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm 60 years old. I'm probably still going to have to work until I'm 70 plus or John Penton's age, but I like to think I've done things that, you know, wouldn't have gotten done had I not done them, you know, whether it's tell stories about old motocross guys or revitalize a BMX race
Yep.
on a track that, you know, are making
I don't
bunch
think there's any
guys
question.
happy.
I don't think there's any question you're changing lives. You know,
Yeah.
you know, how, if you got people coming from Connecticut to come to an old event like that, you know, this is something that he's probably been chomping at the bit for years.
Yeah. Well, like you
BMX event like that.
I think he nailed it when he said that it's the event that they didn't know they needed until it happened. And
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. No
I'm sure it's
question.
just going to
No
continue
question.
to grow every year, I would expect, you know.
So, you know, I mean, we may hit a high water mark in a year or two, you know, but, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's why that other mountain bike that next weekend is kind of important, because then maybe it starts to make sense as a, you know, a financial endeavor or something, you know, because, you know, so
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
nice to have to worry about, you know, how are we
All
going to pay
right.
for the trophies or pay
Yeah.
for the
Hey,
Well, may,
if you made a woman cry about motorcycles, then you could just leave your car at the red light, man. You're not stopping, you're not topping that one.
You know,
that's right.
it's funny you say that, because just the other day I saw an interview with James Cameron, and he said the main goal for him is to make like people get emotional in his movies. Like if he doesn't make you cry or feel like choke up and get, no matter how tough and whatever you are, he says he didn't do his job. And I feel the exact same way. So to hear from him,
Yeah. He's
you
done some
know,
things. Yeah.
he's done some things. Like he
Yeah.
went completely redid the new Avatar movie he's making, like completely redid it because it wasn't emotional enough. And so right at a certain spot, you know.
Right.
I'll take it.
He's got that crazy Hollywood budget money though, where
Yeah,
it's like
right.
$35 million or whatever. I don't know even know.
I don't,
35. Add a
I don't
76
remember,
to it.
I don't remember crying in a Terminator, but Titanic sort of got to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Avatar did.
Avatar did. I'm a
Yeah.
weepy fool with those movies, you know. So
Yeah. 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 Well, you're in good company, Todd.
okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap this thing up, but man, I can't thank you enough, Todd. It's a lot of
Yeah, I
fun.
know it's fun.
Yeah.
Dino Supreme, Todd. It was great.
Maybe we'll get you back on leading into next year's event. We can pump it up a little bit and talk about the following weekend, you know?
Yeah.
See if
That
we
would
can.
be the thing to talk about in your world, you know. And you know,
Yeah.
Mike, I already got you committed for that little giant 10 by 10 booth. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm there.
okay. Tell those executives you're there.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, thanks so
All
much.
right.
See
You
you,
guys
man.
have a good night. Thanks, man.
Take
All
care,
right.
man.
All right.
Thanks everybody for listening. Oh,
Slam.
slam.
Hey, I gotta go too. I'm waiting on a call, but that was good.